Welcome back to Helping Families Go Beyond, the podcast by Beyond the Spectrum. I'm your host, Loryn Carpenter, and I have a snuggle puppy with me. And this is actually an amazing donation from Dog Perfect, who brought 100 of these guys to our kids on campus. And I just wanted to give a quick thank you before we get into the episode for these amazing things, because they have heartbeat simulators on the inside. And so what they do is they're used as a self-soothing tool for our learners. And we are really thankful to have Dog Perfect support for our kiddos to have a nice, comforting snuggle puppy hero with them. And so we are so appreciative. And I may have taken one for myself, but that's all I'm going to say on that. So before we get into the episode, I also just want to do some quick school updates, and I'll share our guest with you. Our guest is Miss Jessica Patay, and she is with the organization We Are Brave Together. And so she has a son with Prader-Willi syndrome, Ryan, and so that kind of spearheaded this whole organization for her, and they are an amazing group. They create self-support books, and they do retreats and workshops and seminars and all sorts of resources for caregivers and parents who are on the special needs journey. And one of their main missions is to make sure that caregivers never feel like they're alone, because the journey can be isolating, but Jessica makes it a point with all of their work to make parents not feel that way. So I'm excited to have a conversation with her and just talk about what it's like and the reality of being a caregiver. And so that's, going to be an amazing conversation with her. And for our school updates, I just wanted to share real quick that we had an amazing school luau in April. It's our third annual one, and we just want to thank all of the parents who donated supplies and everyone who came and helped with the students. And it was really just an amazing event of connection and a wonderful opportunity for our learners to kind of have a school dance experience, an end-of-year school dance. So that's just a wonderful opportunity for them, and we're appreciative for everyone that helped out. And then our monthly trait for May is leadership. So we always encourage families to practice that at home with learners, and we have lots of class lessons based off of that. So it's leadership for May. And we have graduation happening on May 15th at 9 a.m. And so we are going to be sending a big congratulations to our high school seniors, who we may have some that will join us for our vocational group, or they'll go off to trade school or a local college. So either way, we're sending huge congratulations to our high school seniors, our kindergartners, our fifth graders, and our eighth graders as they move up into middle school and high school, and all of these grades and all of their amazing accomplishments that they've achieved this year. So we're excited to have that event and ceremony for them on the 15th. And then our last day of school is May 22nd, and then we will be shifting into summer camp mode. And so we also want to give a wonderful, huge, and sincere and amazing shout out to the Community Foundation of Sarasota County for their amazing $22,000 grant toward our summer camp program. It's going to offset a lot of those costs and provide a lot of families with financial relief and respite over the summer. So that's huge. And then we also want to thank them for the amazing giving challenge that we had in April. And so that was a wonderful, fantastic, amazing, and splendid 24 hours of giving. So we are just so appreciative for all the support. And I think that about does it for our school updates. And so I am really excited to get into this conversation with Miss Jessica. So without further ado, here is our distinguished guest. All right. Well, we are so appreciative to have you join us today, Jessica. And I have just learned so much about your wonderful organization that you have, and it's just incredible, all the things you do. But I'd love to have you introduce yourself and maybe explain your role and some of your story for our listeners who may not be familiar yet.
Thank you so much for having me. I am a wife to one and a mother to three grown-ish adult children, Luke, Ryan, and Kate. And I say that my second son, Ryan, is the one who made me a caregiver. He was diagnosed at 5 weeks of age with a rare genetic disorder called Prader-Willi syndrome, and later diagnosed with autism at age 7. And he is now almost 23 and out of the school district and in a whole new season of life. So that has its challenges and its joys. I have to say, um, looking ahead to this season, I was filled with a lot of fear and worry, and it's not turning out to be quite so bad. So, um, we really do a number on ourselves when we futurize and future trip and, things don't turn out quite the way that we envision, so I'm very grateful for that. The work that I do, I'm the founder and the CEO of We Are Brave Together, which launched almost 9 years ago with the mission and the intent to preserve and protect the mental health of caregiving moms. And so everything that we do is about that. We have connection circles across the United States that are virtual and in person. We have low cost weekend retreats that we also have across the United States. We offer now 5 scholarships per retreat, and they're small retreats, 15, 16 people. Um, we, uh, we are always expanding. So, our goal is to be in every region, 2 or 3 retreats every year. And I believe we'll get there. And then our third offering is Brave Together podcast, which we launched in 2020. Thank God it was in the works before the shutdown so that we could offer something for our moms to connect to. And then our latest is our books. We published Becoming Brave Together in 2024 with the intent to really shout the worth of caregivers and caregiving and raise awareness about extreme caregiving. And so it's a book of 22 stories, different moms, different diagnoses, different ages of kids represented. And then our latest offering is Suddenly Brave Together. And what differentiates this book from our first book is that this book, it's 30 letters written by veteran, seasoned, expert moms. So moms of adult children. Um, and again, representing different parts of the country. We have a couple international contributing authors. And the ages of adult kids represented are probably from 18 to 45. So we have moms who have a lot of experience and a lot of love and wisdom to share in this book.
That's amazing. Your publicist sent over a copy for me to read, and it's just amazing some of the letters that these moms have written, and it's such a powerful resource for mothers who may be new on this journey. So we're excited to see it launch and have it out in the world for people to read. It's really powerful. So it's
Thank
wonderful.
you. Thank you. I mean, we as an organization, we're always thinking, how do we reach the unreachable moms? Even if we're, in every single city of the world, even if we offer a retreat in every single city of the world, there are moms who can't leave their lives. There are moms who don't have help. They don't have respite care. They're terrified to leave their child with somebody else. There's so many obstacles to taking a break to join a connection circle or join a retreat. So how do we reach those moms? And we feel that our books are community and connection and validation and love and support in the pages of a book.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I know at our school here, we've heard stories like that a lot with many of our mothers that come in. We'll have them come in and, they'll tell us, I feel so alone on this journey and I feel like I have no one that I can relate to. And so, that's just something that I think a lot of moms on this journey experience and there's nowhere to really turn sometimes. And so this is going to be wonderful for them and just such a great resource in terms of feeling like there's other people that are on that similar walk. And I know it can feel isolating sometimes, especially with my own mom and my brother who is 29 and he has autism. So I'm sure that this is going to be amazing for anyone that's looking for it.
That is our hope. That is our hope. We're so excited for parent caregivers to read it, but really for friends and family to read it because it really gives them a greater understanding and glimpse into what our caregiving lives are all about.
Yes, definitely, and I know that's something they may not be familiar with, what a Tuesday morning looks like for some of us who are, what brave looks like and what it means to show up for our families, and so I think it would even be wonderful for other family members to read in terms of just getting a glimpse of knowing what's happening and just some insight into a special needs journey, so I think that's wonderful. So I'm really interested in talking about this book. And so, was there a moment when you were working on Suddenly Brave Together where it really cracked you open, or it really changed the way that maybe you saw your own story with your son Ryan?
I think a couple things. One is that it definitely validated the work that we're doing in We Are Brave Together. As moms shared, I was so lonely. I was alone. I felt alone. I'm so isolated. Nobody in my family understands, or my friends don't understand. Or, wow, I learned the hard way about burnout. And I learned the hard way, that actually I do deserve to invest in my own mental health and engage in practices that really are going to ground me and help me for the long haul of caregiving. So I felt like hearing everybody's story really validated the need for what we're doing, and that felt really, really good. Um, I think it cracks you open in a way too when you just listen to other people's stories. It's inspiring, it's empowering, it's, sometimes shocking when you hear what other people's caring is like, their caretaking life is like. Um, and I mean, and I cried, because I feel for all these moms and their journeys and their children and the way their children struggle or suffer in whatever it is that they are, encountering medically, psychologically, genetically. So lots of opportunity for it to affect me personally. It wasn't just a project that I was managing or a dream that I was trying to execute.
Right, definitely. Yeah. And I know something that may happen, something that I've heard that happens with parents, caregivers that are they first start out on this journey. There's maybe a grief that comes along with getting that first diagnosis, or a grief of maybe a life that they thought would happen, and then now they're on a suddenly different track of caregiving and taking care of their children. And so I know that's something a lot of our families experience, something my own mother has talked about, is you have this idea of how things are going to work, and then all of a sudden it's just turned upside down. And so I know that's something you've kind of spoken to in your work, is that grief of a
Mhm,
life that's, suddenly different now.
mhm, mhm. And that's, where the title comes from. It's like we all know when our life shifted suddenly. Before the diagnosis, after the diagnosis, before the call, after the call, before the doctor walks in, after the doctor leaves. Like our lives have shifted. We're now in this alternate universe. And there's that Welcome to Holland poem, and sometimes that can offer comfort and perspective for sure. But it's not that you're just in another beautiful country. I wouldn't say that Ryan's diagnosis is beautiful. I wouldn't. I don't say that his diagnosis is a gift. Now, the repercussions of my growing compassion, empathy, awareness, strength, resilience, yes, that's a gift. But I will never say that PWS is a gift or autism is a gift, because I see how it affects him, and it's hard. It's hard for him and it's hard for the family. Um, Back to grief. Something that I learned along the way, and it was really just because I was in community with other people who understood, who experienced it. The grief is cyclical. And if you've ever lost anybody in your life, or you've had anything tragic happen and there's grief, it doesn't really go away. Now, hopefully, you're not in like the depths of pain and agony. Um, and if you are, then it's time to get help. But grief fades, but it lives with you. And then it can rear up. I call it the wave. I feel the wave. When you see other kids hitting milestones and your kid is not. When, in my stage right now, I should be an empty nester. I may never be an empty nester. So the grief buttons can get pushed throughout the lifetime of your child. And it's okay. And so I'm here to say it's normal. It's understandable. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. And it doesn't mean you don't love your child just because you're grieving the life that he or she is not having. It doesn't mean that you don't love your child because you're grieving, this is not the life that I had planned or wished or hoped or prayed for.
Right. Right, I completely agree, and I know, that's something I've kind of felt with my own brother as well. I'm part of a there's a sibling group online where I can kind of read stories and I can see what other people have in their situations with their special needs siblings, and so I saw there was a post the other day, it was a woman talking about how some of her friends were moving away and they were after college, they were gonna move away and they were gonna start their own lives, and she was staying local to take care of her brother. And so she kinda talked about how she would never experience really getting to kind of move away and start anything because she was taking care of her brother, but so she was talking about that kind of moral dilemma where she wants to take care of him and she wants to be there and support him, but then there's also that kind of grief of not being able to experience that or have that move out, and so that's it's something I think we can all speak to is just how we don't expect those things to happen, and then
Mhm,
we adapt
mhm.
to them.
I really appreciate you bringing that up because I don't think we talk about the sibling grief and what they carry, and they carry a lot. They carry a lot.
Yeah, 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 for
You
sure.
carry a lot.
I do, yeah, I do, and then but, not as much as my brother, but I think the most painful part of it is just seeing how it affects him, like you've mentioned. It's not a beautiful thing sometimes, you can see how uncomfortable they can get in their own skin sometimes and how hard it can be for them to communicate their needs, and so that's really, at the end of the day, what I wish we could really fix and make better for him. And it reminds me of another quote that I saw not too long ago where it was a mother and it was speaking to her special needs son through a poem. And one of the lines was, he will have no idea how soft I make the world for him. And so it was just such a beautiful way of kind of saying all of the care that goes into it and just how it was really moving for me to read that. So
You'll have to send that to me. That's a really beautiful way of saying what mothers and caregivers do.
yes, definitely, definitely, and that's something we do every day, and I know how thankless it can feel for a lot of caregivers, so
Mhm.
yeah. And so with this book and, with your organization, you've built an incredible community of mothers who, feel this way every day. They might feel invisible or they feel isolated or overwhelmed, and so, what does that feel like for you when you watch them find each other and when you make those connections with them?
It's so touching. It's so, so touching. Every time I get to witness it, whether it's at a connection circle or a retreat, if I'm the coordinator, um, or I receive a message online, I am so touched. I'm so excited that my dream came true of, creating something where moms can connect and find each other and they're not just floating in an ocean of caregivers unable to reach each other because that's how it feels. I know you're out there, but I don't know how to find you. I don't know how to reach you. I don't know how to connect with you, or I'm too exhausted to even try. So it makes me very, very happy when I see that or when moms say, "This is my lifeline. This is my lifeline."
Yeah, it's wonderful. I'm sure and I'm sure it's definitely something you could speak to, just such a wonderful feeling of relief after feeling a sort of loss for so long, so
Mhm.
it's
For
amazing.
sure.
So, when you have a mother who, typically feels for the first time that she's not alone on this journey, when she has that moment of realization, that there are thousands of other women who truly understand what's going on and some of the struggles that she has. What would you say what that feels like? What does that feel like?
Well, I think you said a really good word. It's relief. And there's, an exhale of anxiety and fear and loneliness, knowing that there is a group, there are people to reach out to, whether that's, in person or online. And then when you start swapping love and war stories, you feel so validated. Oh my gosh, you've experienced what I've experienced. And I'm not the only one who feels this way. And, I don't have to apologize for my feelings and I don't have to over explain because I'm in a group where we all have this common bond and common experience. It's really comforting and transformative.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know a lot of your work also focuses on caregiver burnout and just kind of relieving that and helping parents feel that it's okay to take breaks and to rest and make time for themselves. And so I think a lot of parents and a lot of anyone who, does caregiving for special needs individuals, I think we all start to kind of run on autopilot and we kind of stay in that fight or flight mode sometimes. And so we may even be burnout and not even realize it. And so
Mhm.
I was wondering if you could maybe explain some of the just symptoms of burnout that maybe you've experienced, or maybe mothers that you've worked with have experienced that have kind of indicated, I need to take time for myself. I need to step back. I need to take some time and let myself be for a moment.
What I see symptoms of burnout is, I think there can be just kind of a numbing. So you're not necessarily experiencing the highs or lows. You're just like you said, on autopilot. And and I like how you said you might not even know you're burnt out. And I think I went through that. Like, I'm fine. I'm taking, care of myself. I'm taking little breaks. I'm exercising. But I was so irritable at home. I never realized that irritability can be a symptom of depression or anxiety. And I don't mean like you have full blown clinical depression or anxiety, but irritability, which is what I definitely had for many, many years, is a symptom. And I think when we isolate, that can also be, when we choose to isolate, it can also be a symptom of burnout because we feel like I don't want to be Debbie Downer. I don't want to talk about my life. I don't want to talk about my story. I don't want to bore anyone. I don't want to bring anyone down. And so you choose to isolate rather than engage, which is what we really need. We need to be with other people. We need to hear each other's voices and see each other's faces. So I think those might be a couple of things that we don't necessarily think of as
Right.
part of burnout.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And that's, so many, we don't even realize it. And then before we know it, it all comes to a head and it comes out in a Walmart parking lot. It's just, it's definitely something that can creep up on caregivers and parents and before they even realize it. And so, how do you help mothers kind of reframe that need for self care as something that's necessary rather than maybe the idea that it's selfish or that it's taking away from their life? How do you reframe that for mothers?
I think there's a couple different ways. I might say, okay, if your best friend, if you were talking to your best friend and you could clearly see that they were exhausted and burnt and sick of caring for everyone, which is, kind of like a symptom of compassion fatigue. You're just so worn out. Your compassion, your level of compassion is waning. Um, what would you say to your best friend? And when you see that mom respond, and then you say, well, we get to practice self compassion. So, everything that you just said, you would say to your best friend who is just toast and burnt out, you can say to yourself. You can give that advice to yourself. You can give yourself permission to take care of yourself in whatever way that is. And uh, we offer a lot of practical ideas and free ideas. We don't, say you have to go join a gym or yoga studio. You don't have to, sign up with a wellness influencer or what have you. It's,
Yeah.
there's so many bite-sized ways that we can take care of ourselves. 5 minutes of just breathing before you start your day, end your day, writing in a gratitude journal, journaling all your feelings and emotions and thoughts, stream of consciousness. There's just so many little ways that can be grounding, that can even light you up. We talk about the difference between self care and self comfort. And, self care is a phrase that's been overused. So I think we all roll our eyes at it. But I really try to say, true self care. And true self care practices will sustain you for the long haul. Now, Is that the magical answer? No, there are systems that need to change, in this country and across the world. If you're a caregiver, you deserve respite caregivers in your life every week. I'm just going to say that. You do. And not everybody can get that. They don't get that through their state. They don't get that through social services agencies. They can't afford to privately hire some sort of sitter or caregiver or trained caregiver for their child or teen or adult. And it should be accessible. It should be accessible. And really, I say that for all caregivers. If you're taking care of a parent, a spouse, your aunt, your grandparents, there should be respite caregivers available because we are going to burn out. We are going to burn out, we just are. We don't have enough help and support.
Right. Absolutely. I think a lot of things need to change systemically to make these things more accessible for caregivers and family members. And I think part of the issue with that too is I think a lot of the people, a lot of the caregivers that are provided to people, I think, are often underpaid, and it's high turnover in that field, and so that just becomes a whole other thing for family members to wrestle with. So it's I'm sure a very lengthy and frustrating process. So it just needs to be more accessible for families.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So, you know, and even still, we are going to continue to give moms permission and the tools to take care of their mental health.
Definitely, absolutely, and I think that's the most important part too, just taking that time and realizing it's okay, and that permission that you mentioned, just, allowing yourself to just be for even a few minutes, because I know self-care and self-comfort can look so different from person to person, so it's,
Mhm.
just an amazing feeling to finally give into it and, get out of that mode of, being an autopilot, so absolutely. And so what would you say is something that maybe the world gets wrong about mothers who raise children with complex medical and developmental needs?
That we need the support that we need because we do rise up and we are strong and we are brave and we are resilient and we learn all the things and we learn all the medical terminology and we wear so many hats: nurse, pharmacist, therapist, all of it. And yet we need people to check on us. How are you really? How are you really doing? How can I walk with you? What is, not, I would say not to ask what is something tangible I can do, but offer a tangible. I would like to come and do your laundry. So drop it off on the porch, leave it on your front porch. I'll pick it up. I'll bring it back 2 days later on your porch, folded and ready for you. Let me bring you a dinner this week, Monday or Wednesday. And do you have any dietary restrictions? We want people to just, yes, we would love people to offer for childcare or respite care. But if that's not doable and that feels scary, then offer to take something off of our plate, off of our to do list. I'll do your pharmacy runs or I'll do your Costco runs. Or every time I hit Trader Joe's, I'm going to ask you, tell me 5 things that you need.
Yeah, that I think that's perfect because, not only are you mothers, but you're also, sometimes you're the breadwinner, sometimes you're also the cook and the cleaner and the dog walker and everything else. And so that's true. So just being able to take the load off of those things, I'm sure, is an amazing help to many families. I didn't even think of that. So all the different hats that caregivers wear. And I something that I think a lot of mothers, maybe don't speak about is how we can kind of learn from our children and our siblings and just the lessons that they can provide us through being who they are. And so that's just something I was wondering is what's something that maybe Ryan has taught you about yourself that maybe you didn't expect to learn?
I would say that he has taught me less to care about what people think. Here's an example. So Ryan will do a lot of self talk. He's talking to himself. He's always done that. And there was probably a time where I felt like, we needed some sort of behavioral intervention to, extinguish the behavior. It's, I hate the word normal. It's not a normal behavior to be talking to yourself. And, if I was honest, worried about what people thought when we were out in public or in the grocery store. We're out on a walk, and he's talking to himself. And then I realized this is self soothing for Ryan. This is good for him. And you know what? I don't care what anybody thinks. I don't care what anybody thinks. He is doing what's best for him right now. And I don't care if it's not normal. I don't care. I don't care what you think of him. I don't care what you think of me. Let Ryan be Ryan.
Yeah. Absolutely, yep, that's something that I've felt with my brother Scotty too, is, I when I was younger, I would worry about that a lot being in public or going to restaurants, if people would stare at the noises he was making, and, if after so long, you just start to ignore it, and it's like, "This is who he is, this is how he feels comfortable in this space," so I don't
Mhm.
pay any mind to it anymore for my own peace. So, I
Yes.
definitely understand. Something else that I think Scotty's taught me, and, just to give you a little bit of more information about him, he was diagnosed at, 18 months with autism, and so he's been in many therapies since, and he's now in our, adult program here at our school, and so he's doing lots of vocational work, but he's 29. So he's a few years older than me, but, I've kind of felt like I'm big sister and little sister, so I'm kinda both, but I wouldn't want it any other way. Um, but yeah, so I think one thing that he's definitely taught me, and I'm sure it's something a lot of other caregivers have learned from their, siblings, children, is discernment. I think having someone like Scotty in my life, it's really shown me who the real people are. The people that are willing to stick around and willing to help out and willing to try and understand. So I think I call him, what do I call him? There's a word for it, but he's a litmus test. He's a great litmus test
Oh, I
for
love
people in
that.
my life, and
Yes.
so it's,
Yes.
it's been great because it's kind of like, well, if you're not willing to try and understand him, then you have no business trying to understand me because package deal, he's part of the family, like,
Mm.
but it's discernment and just knowing who the real and willing and, people are, so
Mhm. Mhm. And isn't it so beautiful when you see people who are so kind and so sweet to our kids, your brother, my son, my oldest son, who's 25, his girlfriend is such a love. And she's like, Ryan, you're one of my best friends. She's so sweet to him. She's so patient. She genuinely loves him. And the things that she'll say about him, like when we toast him on a birthday, oh my gosh, everyone needs a Kleenex box. It's really quite amazing. So let's just shout out to all those people who embrace, our disabled community with just so much grace and love.
yeah, absolutely. Grace is such a good word for it. And I've found that sometimes it's complete strangers who can have more compassion than maybe close people that you know. And it ends up being a very defining moment when someone in the restaurant can, pay for your meal or pray over you and just extend more kindness than maybe someone you've known half your life. So it's very interesting.
Yes, yes.
Definitely, definitely. And so, I know this episode is actually going to be released right around the same time as Suddenly Brave Together. So that's a very exciting thing. That's going to be a fun little synchronicity. So that's wonderful. And so, what's maybe something that you're hoping for readers to feel when they finish the very last page of this book?
I just feel like I hope that they feel so seen and so understood and so validated and and strengthened by witnessing everybody's story.
Amazing. We're excited to share it with our families. I just know that it's going to uplift so many of them who need it. And especially when we have lots of families that come to us with very young children just starting out on their diagnosis journey and they, have so many questions about, what therapy should I do, which school should I use and so many questions about getting started. And so I think this will be really wonderful for them because it kind of depicts more adults and older children, and so it will kind of give them some hope in terms of that as their children gets older and as they age. Because I know that can be a concern for a lot of caregivers is, what happens when they get older. So I think this is going to be really empowering for them to read. It's going to be wonderful.
Thank you. I sure hope so. I know, the book is not gonna tell you that it gets easier as your child gets older, but it will show you that you change, and because you change, it changes the way you handle your circumstances and view your child and view the circumstances, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There's some amazing stories in there that are gonna really resonate with a lot of our listeners and families. And so, another question I also wanted to ask was, over the years, and as you've cared for Ryan, what have been some of the victories or moments with him that that have maybe felt especially meaningful or magical to you?
I think I mean, Ryan didn't walk till he was 3, and I can still see that day. It was just such a long road in the early years. It's symbolic of that the first 3 years to me that were so hard and, involved we had so many medical specialists, pulmonologists, urologists, endocrinologists, GI doctor the list was endless. And all the therapies, OT, PT, speech. And you're always just wondering, is he gonna hit any milestones or when is he gonna hit any milestones? And then he does, and, like, just the freedom that it gave him and the boost that it gave him to be able to walk. So that stands out to me. And then in more recent years, just to see, um, him advocate for himself. And to say, even recently when he participated in an adult day program and he's no longer there, he said, I don't feel safe there. Their kitchen isn't locked, which is that's a whole nother conversation about PWS. But kids and adults with PWS need to live with locked kitchens and pantries and fridge and be on a food schedule because their brain and their body don't tell them that they've had any food. So without
Oh, okay.
supervision, they could literally eat themselves into a medical emergency.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, providing food security, which is a phrase in our world, is by having a locked kitchen, the pantry, the fridge, freezer, if you put stuff in your freezer, and then keeping to a food schedule. So, I even hide my purse at home because it has gum in it. We let the other kids have locks on their doors so that Ryan wouldn't go in there looking for food, gum, or candy. Anyways, but just back to Ryan advocating for himself. That's a proud moment to see your child who does struggle intellectually is definitely a deep soul and intuitive, but can't tell you what he did necessarily today. um, but to see him really speak up for himself, more than once too, is quite remarkable. I didn't know if I'd see that in Ryan.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then I think part of the journey is when we kind of redefine success and we kind of, learn what that means for our sibling, our child. And so that's, something I definitely relate to with Scotty is he's very limited verbally, but the other day he was needing some help with his iPad. He couldn't get the internet to work. And so I fixed it for him and he kind of stood and he was scrolling on it. And so I asked him, I said, "Oh, Scotty, is it working okay?" And he said, "Yes, thank you." Clear as day, and it was such an amazing thing because he usually speaks, he kinda comes up with his own language for things, he'll say something and we just kind of know what he means by it, but so it was just such a clear interaction and exchange that it was just amazing, and it's, amazing how you can still see milestones, even, beyond ages of development and even well into adulthood and just how it can kind of transcend beyond, like, a normal timeline for those things. So I think that's an incredible thing.
I agree, I agree. It's so touching and so surprising sometimes, right? You were probably so surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, definitely. They surprise us every day.
They sure can.
Yeah, for better or for worse, it's every day is different, so for
Yeah.
sure.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, so I'm so excited for families to learn more about you and Ryan and your story and all of the amazing work you do. And so, I always encourage families to reach out to the amazing guests that we have on our podcast series. And so, where are some of the best ways for our families to connect with you? How can they learn more and support your mission and get in touch with you guys?
Thank you. So just join We Are Brave Together through the website. Membership is free. wearebravetogether.org. You can also reach out on Instagram at We Are Brave Together. The podcast is Brave Together Podcast. And you can find our new book through our website. Eventually, it will be on Amazon, but right now it will be through the website. So just look at wearebravetogether.org and look under our books. And if you want to reach out to me personally, you can send me an email, jpatay@wearebravetogether.org.
Amazing. Wonderful. Wonderful. And just before we kind of close out this episode, do you have any sort of advice for caregivers or any final advice for parents who may be doing this for the first time or just new to this journey or anything that you would want them to know?
I just want you to know that you're not alone. You don't have to do this alone. There are so many people that want to love you and support you and organically mentor you and walk with you. And please let them. Please let us.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jessica. We are so appreciative of your time and everything that you've shared with us today. It just means a lot to us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us here today at Helping Families Go Beyond, the podcast by Beyond the Spectrum. For more resources or information, visit our website at beyondthespectrum.org.